and welcome to Noetic Resonance. Today's episode is brought to you by our fake sponsor again that is provided by the game Overrated. It's brought to you by Hooters. 1 out of 5 stars. Mom, please pick me up. You won't answer your phone. I've tried everything. This is so funny because lately I am just not impressed with Hooters. You don't even have great food, and honestly, the view isn't great anymore either. Anyways, let's move on for the day. Before we break the seal of today's journey, we must establish our boundaries. Last week, we talked about how a pill can be a key that unlocks a side effect you didn't ask for. Today, I'm giving you the 12 keys of Solomon. These aren't made of metal or chemicals. They are made of gematria and will. They are the keys to the 12 gates of your own inner temple, allowing you to finally take control of the 72 forces living inside your name. Today, we're diving into something heavy, the seals of Solomon and the shadow work that makes you worthy to wield that kind of spiritual power. Before we begin, I need to be clear about something. This episode is about understanding spiritual authority, protection, and the inner work required before engaging with forces beyond the physical realm. I'm not here to teach you how to summon demons or perform rituals. I'm here to give you the knowledge that's been suppressed and let you decide what to do with it. What I'm about to share is for educational and spiritual understanding purposes. If you choose to work with these seals or perform any ritual work, that's between you and the divine forces you're engaging with. I take no responsibility for what you do with this knowledge. This is powerful information that's been hidden and demonized for a reason, not because it's evil, but because it gives you authority that control systems don't want you to have. That said, and this is critical, if you have not done your shadow work, you have no business touching this level of spiritual practice. Power without internal clearing is corruption waiting to happen. The seals are tools, but without a purified vessel, you're just amplifying your unhealed wounds and ego. Today we're discussing shadow work. This process involves facing repressed emotions, trauma, and the darker aspects of the psyche. This can be intense and destabilizing. If you're currently struggling with severe mental health issues, please navigate this content with care and in the presence of a qualified therapist if needed. By listening further, you agree that you are the master of your own vessel. You are responsible for your own health, your own mind, and your own spirit. So we're going to cover both, the seals themselves and the shadow work that makes you fit to use them, because one without the other is dangerous. Let's begin with the story of King Solomon. Interestingly, Solomon's seals look eerily similar to modern emojis. Many people have pointed this out. Both are symbolic, shorthand that conveys meaning and intention beyond words. Whether that's coincidence, archetypal patterns appearing naturally, or intentional design by those who understand sigil magic, that's for you to decide. But it's worth noting that tech companies are full of people who study esoteric traditions. There are several books attributed to Solomon about his seals and magical operations. There are 3 separate main texts. First is the Testament of Solomon. It's ancient. It was done around 200 to 300 AD. It's got the story and narrative about Solomon getting the ring. It's a standalone text, and it's not part of the other grimoires. The second is the Greater Key of Solomon, the Clavicula Solomonice. And I will just start now by saying thank you so much for being patient again with my pronunciations. I'm always just doing my best for you guys, okay? It was written in medieval Renaissance times, the 1400s to the 1600s. It's a practical grimoire with rituals, preparations, seals, and pinnacles. It's a standalone text, and there's 2 books inside of it. Then there's the third one, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Lemegeddon. It was written in the Renaissance time around the 1600s compilation. It contains 5 books inside of it. The first one is the Ars Goetia, the famous one that talks about the 72 demons, their seals, how to summon and command them, and it's derived from Johann Weyer's 1563 work, Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum. The second is the Ars Theurgia Goetia. It's got aerial spirits and cardinal direction rulers. Neither purely good nor evil. Mostly derives from Trithemius's earlier work. It was written in the mid-1600s. The focus is neutral aerial spirits, not purely demonic, not purely angelic. Theurgia equals divine work versus Goetia, which is sorcery. The third one is Ars Paulina, which is about angels governing the hours of day and night and zodiac signs. It's attributed to the Apostle Paul, and it's pseudepigraphal. It was written in the 15th to 17th century. It focuses on angelic forces governing time and astrological influences. The fourth one is Ars Armadel. It's a system for contacting angels of the four altitudes, the levels of heaven. It's medieval, possibly earlier Eastern sources. It's from like the 15th to 16th century. The focus is constructing a wax almadel, an altar or tablet, to communicate with angels of different heavenly spheres. It's more white magic, like angelical contact, not demonic. The fifth one is Ars Notoria. It's the oldest. It was written in the 1200s. It's got prayers, orations, and mystical diagrams for rapidly gaining knowledge and mental faculties. The oldest manuscripts dated to the 13th century, but contains prayers materials from much earlier than that. The Ars Notoria was done in about the 1200s, so it's much older than the rest of them. Like I said, it's not for summoning spirits. It's about enacting memory, eloquence, and the mastery of the 7 liberal arts through prayer and angelic invocation. It focuses on intellectual, spiritual development, not commanding entities. Medieval students used this to master their studies. The first book, the Goetia, is about commanding demons. The last 4 are increasingly about working with angels and divine forces. The Testament of Solomon from ancient times tells the story of his power. The Greater Keys of Solomon from the medieval period gives the methods how to prepare, purify, create tools, and perform rituals. There is no ancient Hebrew original. The Hebrew versions are actually later Jewish adaptations of Latin or Italian texts, not the source. Think of these like the Gnostic Gospels, written centuries after Jesus, but claiming to preserve his actual teachings that the church suppressed. Same principle here. Solomon's original knowledge was too powerful to write down openly, so it was hidden, encoded, passed through initiates, and eventually compiled into these grimoires during the Renaissance when there was slightly more freedom to explore occult knowledge. When Solomon himself physically wrote these exact words doesn't really matter as much as whether the knowledge is authentic, the seals, the principles, the understanding of spiritual forces. And based on how they've been used and guarded for centuries, something real is encoded here. Let's start with who Solomon actually was and how he gained his power. Solomon was the son of King David and Bathsheba. When he became king of Israel around 970 BCE, he was young and he knew it. So he did something most rulers don't do. He asked God not for wealth, power, or long life, but for wisdom, specifically the wisdom to govern justly and discern between good and evil. God was so pleased with this request that Solomon was granted not only wisdom, but also wealth, honor, and peace during his reign. He became known as the wisest man who ever lived. But here's where the story gets esoteric. According to the Testament of Solomon, one of the oldest texts about his magical power, Solomon was building the first temple when a demon began tormenting one of his favorite servants, draining his life force every night. Solomon prayed for help, and the archangel Michael appeared, giving him a magical ring inscribed with a seal, a pentagram with the ineffable name of God. This ring gave Solomon authority over all demons and spirits. He summoned the demon tormenting his servant, whose name was Ornias, and commanded it with the ring. The demon was bound and forced to serve. Solomon then commanded Ornias to bring him Beelzebul, the prince of demons himself. One by one, Solomon summoned and interrogated the demons. He asked each one, "What is your name? What powers do you have? What harm do you cause humans? Which angel can thwart you?" And then he bound them and forced them to help build the temple. The demons cut stones, transported materials, and worked on the construction. Solomon didn't just defeat them, he put them to work for divine purposes. The 72 spirits cataloged in the Ars Goetia, those are the forces Solomon learned to command, not through brute force, but through knowledge of their true names, understanding their nature, and wielding divine authority through the seal. But here's what they don't often tell you about Solomon, how his story ends. Despite all his wisdom, despite commanding 72 demons, despite building the temple and serving God, Solomon fell. The text tells us that he accumulated 700 wives and 300 concubines, which when I saw this, I was like, good God, he's got more than one per day of the year. He had to be a busy, busy man. But he also built temples to foreign gods to please those wives. He turned away from God who gave him wisdom. He lost his way in excess, luxury, and compromise. Some traditions say he lost the ring, his divine authority. A demon, Asmodeus, in some versions, took his place on the throne. He wandered as a beggar, unrecognized. He eventually regained his throne, but humbled and broken. Others say he kept his throne, but lost his wisdom. His kingdom split after his death because of his corruption. He died in regret, recognizing how he'd squandered his gifts. The Testament of Solomon, written as his final words before death, reads like a warning. I, Solomon, wrote this testament for those who come after, so they may know. I had all wisdom, all power, all authority, and I lost it through lack of discipline, through ego, through thinking I was above the very wisdom I had been given. This is a cautionary tale. You can unlock all 12 keys, integrate all 72 forces, build the temple, and still fall if you stop doing the work. Solomon's shadow was incomplete. He mastered external forces but didn't fully integrate his own internal demons, like lust with the 700 wives and 300 concubines, pride, thinking he could handle worship of foreign gods without consequence, greed, accumulating wealth and women like possessions, and control with political marriages, alliance built on compromise. He skipped keys. He bypassed his own teaching. He thought wisdom alone would save him. It didn't. The lesson for us is this work is never done. You don't complete shadow work and then coast along the way. The 12 keys must be turned again and again at deeper levels for your entire life. Vigilance, humility, constant self-examination. Solomon's fall teaches us no matter how wise you become, how powerful, how accomplished, you're still human. You still have shadow. And if you stop watching it, it will consume you. That's why I keep saying, check your intention, do the work, stay humble. The moment you think you're beyond shadow work is the moment you're most vulnerable. Solomon had it all and lost it because he stopped being vigilant. Don't make his mistake. I want to clarify something important that often gets confused: the difference between Solomon's seals and sigils. The seals are like a signature of authority. It represents the power and office of the one who wields it. Think of a king's royal seal pressed into the wax on official documents. Solomon's seal, the pentagram with the divine name inscribed, was given to him by the archangel Michael. It represented his divine authority to command spirits. The seal itself carried God's name and power. When Solomon showed the seal, demons had to obey, not because of Solomon's personal power, but because the seal represented divine authority backing him. The seal is about who gave you the authority and what you represent. The sigils are unique symbol signatures of a specific spirit or demon. Each of the 72 demons in the Ars Goetia has its own sigil, a geometric design that represents that entity's essence and serves as a way to call it forth. Think of it like a phone number. The sigil is how you dial that specific entity. It's their identifying mark, their energetic signature made visible. In Solomon's grimoires, you'll see one seal, Solomon's authority, the pentagram ring, and 72 sigils, one for each demon he commanded. This is how they work together. Solomon would draw or inscribe the demon's sigil, calling that specific entity, and then display his seal to them, showing his divine authority to command them. He would speak the demon's true name, the final binding. The sigil summons, the seal commands, the name binds. For your inner work, your seal is the alignment with Source, your purity of intent, your divine authority as a sovereign being created in the image of God. The sigils are the specific shadow aspects you're working with: rage, shame, fear, lust, etc. Each has its own signature or pattern in your psyche. You call forth the shadow aspect, the sigil. You command it with your divine authority, the seal. You name it truthfully, binding it, and you integrate it, putting it to work. So when you see references to Solomon's seals in the text, know, sometimes it means his one seal of authority. Sometimes it means the collection of the sigils for the 72 demons. The terms get used interchangeably, but they're technically different. What matters is understanding that the authority comes from alignment with divine will. And each force you're working with has its own unique nature and signature. The 72 demons Solomon commanded aren't just random evil spirits. They represent 72 archetypal forces, aspects of consciousness, shadow, power, and knowledge. When you understand what each one represents, you'll see they're actually mapping the full spectrum of human psychology and spiritual forces. I'm not going to read all 72 to you right now. That would take forever. But I want to give you a framework for understanding them. The 72 are organized by rank. There's 9 total kings, major archetypal rulers governing broad domains, and dukes. There's 26 dukes, which are powerful forces with specific domains. There's 11 princes, which are influential forces, often deceptive marquises, which are often deceptive. There's 13 marquises, which are forces of transformation and change. There's 11 presidents. These are forces of knowledge and revelation. And then there's 2 earls and counts. They are mixed forces. Here's what's important to understand. Each demon represents something within you. For example, the first few. We've got Baal, the king. He can appear in different forms, like a man, a cat, a toad, or all at once. He represents shape-shifting identity deception, the mask you wear, the invisibility and hiding. The shadow work to that is facing how you show different faces to different people, where you hide your true self. Many commonly know this as masking, because you're trying to fit in. Another example is Agars. He's a duke. He teaches languages, retrieves runaways, causes earthquakes, and he represents communication breakdown, running from yourself, internal upheaval. The shadow work is, what are you running from? What's shaking your foundation? The third one is Visago. He's a prince. He reveals hidden things, declares past and future. He represents intuition, prophecy, and seeing what's hidden, including in yourself. The shadow work is, what truth are you avoiding seeing in your life about yourself? Number 4 is Samagina. He's a marquise. He teaches liberal sciences and gives account of dead souls. He represents knowledge of what's dead within you, understanding your past. The shadow work there is what parts of you have died that need acknowledgement. Number 5 is Marbas. He's a president. He reveals hidden things, causes and cures diseases, and gives knowledge of mechanics. He represents the shadow's role in illness, the power to heal or harm yourself. The shadow work is, what are you doing to your own body and health through the unprocessed shadow? You see the pattern? Each demon is a force within your psyche. Rage, lust, greed, envy, the obvious ones, but also prophecy, wisdom, teaching, transformation, and healing. There's communication, memory, artistry, science, strategy, self-deception, manipulation, control, surrender. The 72 aren't good or evil. They're forces that can be used either way depending on integration and intention. For your shadow work, you don't need to work with all 72 at once. That's overwhelming and unnecessary. Instead, identify which forces are active in your life right now. Which patterns keep showing up? Which demons, shadow aspects are running your unconsciousness? Maybe you're dealing with deception like Baal. You're lying to yourself. Or you're running away like Agares and you're avoiding the truth. Or you're using manipulation to control others. Or maybe you're using self-destruction. You're sabotaging your own success. Name them, feel them, integrate them. Put them to work for your temple instead of tearing you down. If you want to dive deeper into all 72, the full lists is available in any translation of the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Lemegeton. But for practical shadow work, start with ones that are active for you right now. The goal isn't to memorize all 72. The goal is to recognize the forces operating in your life and learn to command them with divine authority and pure intent. I've linked all the books for reading on my website, noeticresonance.org. You will find them under the Lost Texts tab with the Lost Gnostic Texts. That way, if you want to read them, you want to check them out yourself, go right ahead. Here's what's important. Solomon's power didn't come from the ring alone. It came from wisdom, knowing the true names and the natures of the forces, divine authority, working in alignment with God, source, not ego, purity of purpose, building the temple, serving the divine plan, the seal, the symbol that represented his covenant and authority. Without the internal alignment, the ring would have been useless. Without the wisdom, he couldn't have commanded the spirits. Without the purity of purpose, the power would have corrupted him. And here's where it connects to shadow work. The 72 demons Solomon commanded, they're not just external entities. They're archetypal forces, aspects of chaos, destruction, temptation, illusion, fear, lust, rage, the same forces that live within every human psyche. No one is above this. Solomon mastered them externally because he first mastered them internally. He did his shadow work. He integrated the fragmented, rejected, dark aspects of himself. That's what made him worthy to wield the seal. Solomon's secret wasn't magic juice or a lucky ring. His secret was knowing the names. He knew that if you can name the demon, you can tame that demon. You are the temple Solomon was building. The 72 forces are within you. The 12 gates are the aspects of yourself you must unlock. And the keys? They're made of gematria and will, the understanding of sacred names and numbers, and the sovereign choice to do the work. That's what we're unlocking today. The 12 keys aren't just one thing. They're synchronistic convergence points. Each key unlocks multiple gates at once. When you turn key number 1, you're simultaneously working with the Aries energy, integrating the shadow of rage and initiative, and activating your root survival center, and beginning the alchemical process of calcination, breaking down false identities. Everything is connected. The ancients knew this. That's why 12 shows up everywhere. It's not coincidence. It's cosmic architecture. Before we continue, I need you to understand something important. Astrology, numerology, Kabbalah, chakras, alchemy, tarot, the I Ching, sacred geometry, they're all describing the same reality through different symbolic languages. Think of it like this. Truth is a diamond. Each system is looking at a different facet of that same diamond. Astrology looks through the lens of cosmic timing and archetypal energies. Numerology looks through the lens of sacred mathematics and vibration. Alchemy looks through the lens of transformation and purification. Chakras look through the lens of energy centers in the body. Tarot looks through the lens of archetypal journey and symbolism. But they're all pointing at the same thing: the structure of consciousness, the pattern of creation, the map of the soul's journey. The ancients understood this. They didn't see these as separate competing systems. They saw them as different languages describing one unified reality. A Kabbalist, an astrologer, and an alchemist could sit down together and recognize, oh, you're talking about the same process I am, just different words. Just using different words. The fragmentation happened later, when control systems needed to keep people confused, separated, arguing about whose system was right. They divided and conquered. They make people think astrology and Christianity are opposed, that Kabbalah and Buddhism are incompatible, that you have to choose one path. That's a lie. The 12 zodiac signs, the 12 tribes, the 12 disciples, the 12 stages of alchemy, the 12 gates of the temple, they're all describing the same 12 archetypal energies that structure consciousness and creation. Different cultures, different times, different languages, all the same truth. So when I reference astrology in these keys, I'm not saying you must believe in astrology. I'm saying this is one lens for understanding these archetypal forces. If another system resonates more with you, use that. It's not a big deal. The truth doesn't change based on which language you use to describe it. They all converge on that same diamond. That's why the synchronicities exist. That's why 12 shows up everywhere. It's not coincidence. It's cosmic architecture revealing itself through multiple symbolic systems so that everyone can find the door that opens for them. Use whichever key fits your lock, but know they're all opening the same temple. Okay, before we go further, I need you to understand something critical about this work. Intention is everything, which I have said this multiple times, but it's because it is so important. Solomon's seals, shadow work, the 72 forces, these are tools. And like any tool, they can build or destroy depending on the hand that wields them. A hammer can build a house or crack a skull. The hammer isn't good or evil. The intention behind its use determines the outcome, right? The same is true here. You can do shadow work to genuinely heal and integrate with good intentions, or manipulate others more effectively by understanding psychology, which is a selfish intention. You can command the 72 forces to build your inner temple and serve divine purpose, which is aligned intention. Or you can dominate and control for personal power, which is a corrupted intention. You can speak truth to liberate and awaken people in service of others. Or you can destroy someone's reputation because you're hurt with revenge. Anything portrayed as only good or only evil is a facade. It's a lie meant to control you. The church says these seals are evil. Never touch them. New Age says shadow work is always healing and light. Both are lying. The seals can be used for great good or great harm. Shadow work can lead to genuine integration or spiritual bypassing. Even acts that look altruistic can be done from ego, control, or manipulation. Someone can donate to charity, which looks good, but only for a tax break and reputation. That's selfish, right? Someone can speak hard truth that hurts someone. It looks mean, but because they genuinely want to help them wake up, there is a loving intent. Someone could appear as a light worker and look spiritual while secretly manipulating and controlling others with dark intent. Someone can seem dark or rebellious, which looks bad, while actually fighting for liberation and truth, which is a righteous intent. You cannot judge by appearance alone. You must discern intention. The only true evil, and I mean this, is the denial of sovereignty, Satanism, control systems, anything that claims authority over another being. That removes their free will, and that says, I own you. You must obey. That is the only absolute evil, the removal of choice, the denial of free will, the claim of ownership over another soul. Everything else, it depends on intention. So as you do this work, as you unlock these keys, face your shadow, learn to command your inner forces, check your intention constantly. Ask yourself, am I doing this to genuinely heal or to gain power over others? Am I integrating my shadow or justifying my harmful behavior? Am I speaking truth to liberate or to destroy? Am I serving love or serving ego? Your shadow will lie to you. It will dress up selfish intent as spiritual language. It will say, I'm doing this for their own good, when really you're controlling them. It will say, I'm just being honest, when you're really just being cruel. This is why the 12 keys must be unlocked in order. Key 6, which is discernment, teaches you to see through your own bullshit. Key 7, balance, keeps you from swinging too far into anything goes or rigid moralism. Key 10 is mastery. It gives you the discipline to hold yourself accountable. Without doing the internal work first, these tools will corrupt you. Just like Solomon, all that power, but he lost his way because he stopped checking his intention. So I'll say it again. Intention is everything. Use these teachings wisely. Build your temple with pure intent. Command your demons to serve love, not ego. And always ask yourself, why am I really doing this? Now we begin with the keys. Key 1 is initiation, the I begin. In Zodiac, this is Aries, the ram, the first sign, initiation energy. The shadow aspect is raw impulse, uncontrolled rage, reckless action. The energy center is the root chakra. It's survival, primal life force. The alchemical stage is calcination, burning away false identity through fire. The spiritual principle is courage to start the 72 forces. The connection is Baal, the first demon in Goetia. He rules over deception and illusion of the self. What this key unlocks is the courage to begin the work, the willingness to say, I will face my shadow. Most people never turn this key. They stay outside of the temple their entire lives, afraid of what's inside. This key requires you to acknowledge, I contain darkness. I contain fragmented forces. I am not whole yet, and I choose to do the work. The shadow integration is facing the rage, the impulsiveness, the parts of you that act without thinking. Don't suppress them, understand them. Where does your anger come from? What is it protecting? Aries energy is pure life force. When integrated, it becomes holy aggression, the spiritual warrior energy that defends truth and boundaries. The gematria connection is number 1, which is representative of unity, beginning, the monad, God as one. Your name begins with a letter that has a numerical value. This is your entry point. Without this key, the temple stays locked. Everything begins here. Here's the truth most spiritual teachers won't tell you. Many people skip this key entirely. They jump straight to love and light, crystals and manifestation, positive affirmations, all while their shadow is running the show from the basement. This is the most important key because without it, none of the other keys will turn. You can't integrate what you won't acknowledge. You can't heal what you refuse to see. You can't command the 72 forces if you're pretending they don't exist inside of you. People avoid this key because it requires brutal honesty. I have rage inside of me. I have hurt people. I have lied to myself. I am not evolved as I pretend to be. My light worker persona is a mask hiding my unhealed darkness. Without turning this key, you're just spiritually bypassing using spirituality to avoid doing the actual work. You become the person who talks about chakras but explodes in rage at your family, who posts love and light themes but harbors deep resentment, who claims to be awakened but is still controlled by unconscious wounds. Solomon didn't skip this step. Before he could command demons, he had to acknowledge they existed and that he needed help praying for the ring. Before he could build the temple, he had to admit he needed wisdom. If you skip key 1, you're building on sand. Everything that follows will collapse. This key is hard because it kills the ego's favorite story. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't have a shadow. But it's the most important because it's the foundation of everything else. I can tell you that I myself am also working on this key right now. I have subconscious triggers from all the trauma that I spoke about in my previous episodes. Those things still trigger me, and I'm currently figuring out how to master these because there is stuff that happens where it bleeds out onto other people, my anger, my frustration, unintentionally or even intentionally sometimes, and I'm trying to master it. So no one is above this. Even as I speak to y'all now, like I said, I am doing the work myself. Key 2 is observation. I see. The zodiac is the Taurus, the bull, grounded earth, patient, observation, material awareness. The shadow aspect is stubbornness, resistance to change, materialism, and possessiveness. The energy center is the sacral chakra, emotions, desire, creativity, and pleasure. The alchemical stage is dissolution, softening the calcined remains with water, allowing emotions to flow. The spiritual principle is witness consciousness. The 72 forces connected is agares, which teaches languages, retrieves runaways, causes earthquakes, and reveals what's hidden beneath the surface. This is what this key unlocks. After you've had the courage to begin key 1, you must learn to simply observe without judgment. You have to give yourself grace because we are learning, especially if you come from an environment like me. You weren't given the tools to figure these things out previously, right? You have to say to yourself, not, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. Don't be beating yourself up with these negative thoughts. You are learning. And the fact that you're here doing this work is a great testament. It's much more than other people who are willing to ever admit that they have any issues, right? So give yourself credit for that, okay? I want you to pat yourself on the back for being here. This is the practice of watching your shadow without immediately trying to fix it, suppress it, or justify it. Because we don't need to immediately be like, oh my God, I have to quit doing that. There has to be more to it, right? Taurus teaches us to be still, grounded, patient, to sit with what is, even when it's uncomfortable. The bull doesn't rush. It watches, it waits, and it sees clearly. The shadow integration is this. You observe your patterns without the story. I notice I get defensive when criticized. I notice I seek validation through material things. I notice I resist change even when it would help me. I notice I try to control and possess people I love. Not, I'm a terrible person because I do these things. Just, I see this pattern operating. The Taurus shadow is stubborn resistance. I don't want to see this. I want things to stay comfortable. Change is threatening. But integrated Taurus becomes steady witnessing, the ability to hold space for truth without collapsing or running. In gematria, the number 2 represents duality, reflection, and the mirror. You cannot see yourself without looking, though. Your name contains pairs of letters, doubled energies. This key teaches you to see both sides. People skip this step because observation without judgment is really hard. The ego either wants to deny what you're seeing, I'm not really like that, immediately fix it, I'll just stop doing that. or justify it, but I have good reasons. The observation means sitting in the discomfort of seeing yourself clearly, the good, the bad, the ugly, without collapsing into shame or puffing up into defense. Without key 2, you can't proceed. You might have admitted you have a shadow in key 1, but if you won't actually look at it, you can't work with it. Key 3 is communication. I speak. In Zodiac, this is the Gemini, the twins, the duality, communication, mind, and messenger. The shadow aspect of it is deception, gossip, mental fragmentation, two-faced behavior, scattered energy. The energy center affected is the solar plexus chakra, personal power, identity, and will. The alchemical stage is separation, distinguishing true from false, sorting what serves from what doesn't. And the spiritual principle is truth in speech. The 72 forces connected are Visago. It reveals hidden things, declares the past and the future, finds lost objects, the demon who speaks the truth. This is what this key unlocks. After you've begun the work with key 1 and learned to observe with key 2, you must now name what you see, speaking your truth first to yourself and then to others. Gemini is the messenger, the communicator, but in shadow, it's the liar, the gossip, the one who says different things to different people. The twins represent duality. Truth versus deception, authentic versus masked, integrated versus fragmented. This key forces you to confront the lies you tell yourself. I'm fine. It doesn't bother me. I've forgiven them. The masks you wear, showing different faces to different people because you want to be accepted, but really you just need to be your genuine, authentic self. And it also shows you the truths you avoid speaking because they're uncomfortable to people or yourself. And they're the words you use to manipulate rather than communicate. Gemini shadow is the trickster, the deceiver, using words as weapons or shields instead of bridges. But integrated, Gemini becomes the truthful messenger, someone whose words carry power because they're aligned with what is, not what you wish were true. So it's like insightful observations that can hurt because it's truthful, but if someone looks at it in the right way, it can be very helpful for their growth, right? This is the separation stage of alchemy. You must sort through the mental chatter, the conditioning, the borrowed beliefs that have been given to you as you were raised, and separate your truth from the lies you've internalized. What's actually yours? What did you adopt to survive your world you were in? What needs to be spoken? What needs to be released? In Gematria, the number 3 represents the Trinity, creation through word, the Father, Mother, and Child. In the beginning was word, manifestation through speech. Your name spoken aloud carries vibration. Sound creates reality. When you speak your truth, you create new possibilities. But like I said, you have to be genuine and authentic. It doesn't matter who's judging you or you being afraid of being judged. You just have to speak it. This is whenever things open up for you because you're not just living your truth, you're speaking it. This is why people skip this key, because speaking truth has consequences, right? Sometimes people, like I said, they get angry and they don't like the truth. So you may lose friends or family or whatever, or lose some things in your life. Speaking your truth to yourself means you can't pretend anymore as well. Speaking your truth to others means the relationships might end, like I said. Speaking your truth might cost you approval, belonging, and safety, right? And I don't mean like safety from physical harm necessarily, although that could be the case as well, but just your internal safety in your comfort zone. So people stay silent. They observe their shadow in key 2, but they won't name it. They see the pattern, but won't say it out loud, not even to themselves. But what you don't name, you can't command. Solomon had to speak the names of the demons to bind them. You must speak the name of your shadow aspects to integrate them. Your voice is a tool of power. Silence keeps you bound. Truth spoken, even when it shakes, sets you free. Without key 3, your shadow stays unnamed and therefore unintegrated. You're aware, but you're not empowered. Key 4 is feeling it. I feel. In Zodiac, this is the Cancer, the Crab, water element, emotional depth, the mother, home, protection. The shadow aspect of it is emotional manipulation, victim mentality, clinging, smothering, defensiveness, and retreating into your shell. The energy center affected is the heart chakra, love, compassion, and connection, and grief. The alchemical stage is conjunction, bringing opposites together, uniting what's separated. The spiritual principle is emotional sovereignty. The 72 forces connected is Samajina, which teaches liberal sciences, gives account of dead souls, forces spirits to appear, and reveals what's buried in the emotional underworld. This is what this key unlocks. After naming your truth in key 3, you must now allow yourself to feel it fully. Not just intellectualize, not explain, not justify, you just need to feel it. Cancer is the deep ocean of emotion, the tides, the waves, the undertow. The crab carries its shell, its home, on its back because it needs protection for its soft, vulnerable interior. But that shell can also become a prison. The shadow integration that this key confronts is emotions you've suppressed because they felt too big, too dangerous, or too overwhelming. You've used emotions to manipulate others. If you loved me, you would do this type stuff. Or you're playing the victim to avoid responsibility. This always happens to me. But your choices are involved in that. You're giving your sovereignty away when you say that. You're drowning in emotions without discernment, confusing feeling everything with processing anything. You've got the armored heart. I don't need anyone. I'm fine alone, which is your defensive shell. It's this toxic hyper-independence type shadow, right? Cancer shadow is emotional manipulation and self-protection gone toxic, weaponizing vulnerability, using guilt as control, hiding behind the walls while blaming others for distance. But integrated Cancer becomes emotional wisdom, the ability to feel deeply, to nurture authentically, and maintain boundaries without walls. The conjunction stage of alchemy is bringing together what was separated. Your head and your heart, your strength and your vulnerability, your anger and your grief, your masculine and your feminine. The opposites unite, not as compromise, but as integration. In Gematria, the number 4 represents stability, foundation, the 4 elements of fire, water, earth, and air, the square, and material manifestation. Emotions are real. They're not less than thoughts. Your feelings have substance, weight, and reality. Honor them. This is why people skip this key, because feeling is terrifying sometimes, right? You don't want to think about certain things and feel them, especially for those who've survived trauma like myself. Feeling the grief, the rage, the abandonment, the shame fully without numbing it, without bypassing it, without fixing it immediately. That's the scariest thing in the world. And let me tell you, whenever I was doing some of this work, like when I'm still doing this work, it is hard because sometimes it's like you're living in that moment physically again, right? But you have to relive it to master it, to overcome it. And so just know that in this situation as well, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself grace because we're all just doing the best we can. Some people stay in their heads, like in key 3. They can name what they feel, they can talk about their emotions, but they won't actually drop in and feel it in their body. Or they swing the opposite way, drowning in emotions constantly, but never actually processing them. They're just recycling the same pain over and over. Key 4 is the difference between I know I have abandonment wounds, which is intellectual awareness, and actually feeling the abandonment, grieving it, letting it move through you with embodied integration. This is also called somatic work because even animals have ways that they physically process the emotions that they feel to be able to move forward. Without this key, your shadow stays conceptual. You understand it mentally, but it hasn't been metabolized. The demons remain unbound because you haven't actually faced them in their territory, the emotional body. Solomon didn't just name the demons. He felt their presence, faced them directly, allowed himself to be affected while maintaining his sovereign authority. You must do the same. Feel it. All of it. Don't run. The temple gate opens when you stop hiding from your own heart. Key 5 is expression. I create. In Zodiac, this is the Leo, the lion, fire element, heart center, creative force, sovereignty, the king, the queen. The shadow aspect is ego, inflation, narcissism, the need for attention and validation, domination, pride, performative identity. The energy center affected is your throat chakra. Authentic expression and creativity, speaking your truth into form. The alchemical stage is fermentation, death, and rebirth, the purification before new life emerges. The spiritual principle is authentic self-expression. The 72 forces connected is Marbas, who reveals hidden things, causes, cures diseases, gives knowledge of mechanical arts, and transforms and reshapes. This is what this key unlocks. After feeling fully in key 4, you must now express what's inside you outwardly, not perform for approval, create from authentic overflow. Leo is the creative force incarnate, the sun radiating its light, the lion roaring its presence, the sovereign claiming their throne. This is raw creative power, self-expression, the courage to be seen as who you truly are. The shadow integration. The shadow integration part is this key forces you to confront performing versus being. Are you creating to get something like validation, attention, or approval, or because creation flows through you naturally? The inflated ego. I'm special. I'm better. I deserve recognition. The deflated ego. Who am I to shine? I should stay small and humble. Seeking external validation, measuring your worth by likes and follows and applause. Dominating others to feel powerful instead of owning your actual power. Pride that refuses correction. I don't need help. I know what's best. Leo shadow is the tyrant king, the attention-seeking performer, the narcissist who needs constant praise. But integrated Leo becomes the benevolent sovereign, someone who shines brightly without dimming others, who creates from fullness, not lack, who leads by inspiration, not domination. In the fermentation stage of alchemy, this is the black stage, the putrefaction, the death before resurrection. Your false self, the persona you created to survive, to be loved, to be safe, must die. It rots away in the alchemical vessel, and from that death, your true self emerges, the authentic expression that was always underneath the performance. And let me tell you, when you get to this stage, oh my gosh, it feels so good to live your truth. Don't get me wrong though, this is terrifying. Who are you if you're not the person that you've been performing to be? What if people don't like your real self? What if your authentic expression isn't good enough, or if it's too much, or whatever stuff that you are worried about? But in the end, even if you lose people or relationships over this, those were not true connections because you were not being your true self. Once you find your actual true connections after you embrace this, oh my gosh, it is so wonderful, the relationshipal differences that happen. It's amazing. Highly, highly encourage, obviously. In Gematria, the number 5 equals humanity. 5 fingers, 5 senses, the pentagram as human form, free will, change, the unpredictable element that disrupts perfect order. Your expression is yours. No one else can create what you create. Your voice, your art, your unique frequency is irreplaceable. This is why people skip this step, because authentic expression is vulnerable, like I said. It's safer to create what you think people want to see, to perform the spiritual person or healed person role, and stay small so you don't threaten anybody, or copy others instead of finding your own voice. You never actually create anything because then you can't fail, right? But you can't unlock the inner temple while you're wearing a mask. Solomon wasn't performing kingship. He was king. His authority was authentic, not borrowed. His wisdom expressed genuinely, not for applause. Key 5 demands you stop performing, start creating, die to the false self, let your true expression roar, even if it's messy, even if it's not polished, even if people don't understand, right? I've talked about this so many times, trusting the process, because the caterpillar, to become a butterfly, has to become this literal soup inside the cocoon. It looks like a fucking mess, right? Like, ew, gross. But if you trust the process, even in the messiness of you doing this work, of you figuring out your way on your journey, no matter what that looks like, if you trust the process, on the other side is this beautiful butterfly, you living your true authentic life. The lion doesn't ask permission to roar, neither should you. Without this key, you remain hidden. You feel deeply key 4, but never let it out. The creative forces stay trapped inside, unexpressed, and it begins to rot with depression, resentment, and illness. Expression is how energy moves. Open the gate. Let yourself be seen. Create, roar, shine. And don't think, oh, I can't create things because you can't say draw or paint or whatever. Creation happens in so many ways, right? So whatever your creative outlet is, that is your creation. Key 6 is discernment. I analyze. In Zodiac, this is related to the Virgo, the Virgin, Earth element, purification, service, the healer, the analyst. The shadow aspect of it is perfectionism, criticism of yourself and others, anxiety, control through micromanagement of yourself and other people, and self-righteousness. The energy center affected is the third eye chakra, which is for intuition, inner vision, clarity, seeking beyond illusion. The alchemical stage is distillation, purifying further, extracting essence, removing remaining impurities. The spiritual principle is sacred discernment. The 72 forces connected is force, which teaches logic, ethics, herbs, precious stones, and makes invisible visible, revealing what's hidden. This is what this key unlocks. After authentic expression in key 5, you must now discern what's true from what's false in yourself, in others, in teachings, and in spirits. Virgo is the sacred analyst, the purifier, separating wheat from chaff, medicine from poison, truth from deception. The Virgin represents purity of perception, seeing clearly without projection or distortion. In the shadow integration, this key confronts perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. Or harsh criticism of yourself and others, weaponizing discernment into judgment. Analyzing paralysis, overthinking until you're frozen and unable to act. Control through nitpicking. Like I said, micromanaging details to feel safe. Self-righteousness. I can see clearly. Everyone else is wrong, asleep, or fooled. Spiritual bypassing through discernment. Dismissing genuine emotion as low vibration. I'm not going to have anything to do with that. Because their stuff is valid too. Sometimes their, quote, low vibration is something that is a tool teaching you something inside yourself, trying to show you some of your shadow, right? Virgo shadow is the perfectionist who criticizes everything. The analyst who can't feel. The Puritan who judges all pleasure as impure. But integrated Virgo becomes sacred discernment, the ability to see clearly, choose wisely, and purify without destroying. The distillation stage of alchemy is after fermentation, the death rebirth in key 5, you now distill what emerged, what's essential, what's extraneous, what serves your highest path, what's just ego dressed in spiritual clothing. This is crucial for shadow work. Not everything that rises from your unconscious is truth that needs expression. Some thoughts are old programming and old thought patterns. Some emotions are echoes of past trauma, not your current reality. You must discern. And critically, this key teaches you to discern between genuine spiritual guidance versus ego masquerading as higher self, authentic intuition versus fear-based paranoia, helpful boundaries versus rigid control, sacred standards versus impossible perfectionism, the voice of wisdom versus the voice of the inner critic, like I said, beating ourselves up. The gematria number 6 represents harmony, balance, and the hexagram, 2 triangles, as above, so below, service to others, the choice point. Discernment is choosing which path to walk. Your name contains the pattern. Some letters serve, some distract. See clearly. This is why people skip this key. Because discernment is uncomfortable, right? Just like truth is uncomfortable. Either they can't discern at all truth is relative, everything is valid, who am I to judge, which is spiritual bypassing, or over discernment into judgment. Nothing is good enough, everyone is fake, I alone see clearly, which is your spiritual ego talking. Both avoid the hard work of actual discernment, feeling into what's true for you, not what should be, not what others say, but what resonates. This is when you need to pay attention to that tingly gut feeling, your gnosis feeling, whatever it is for you, where you're able to say, there's something there because I physically felt that even. That's resonation. Recognizing when you're being deceived by yourself or others, setting boundaries without becoming rigid, analyzing without losing your heart connection. Solomon had to discern which spirits were lying, which were truthful, what their true natures were. He couldn't just bind them all blindly or trust them all naively. He had to see clearly. Without key 6, you can't tell which spiritual teacher is genuine versus which is a grifter, which inner voice is intuition versus which is fear, which shadow aspect needs integration versus which pattern needs to be released entirely, which teachings serve your path versus which lead you astray. This key is the difference between wisdom and gullibility, between boundaries and walls, between clarity and confusion. Open your third eye, see clearly, discern with both head and heart, purify without perfecting, analyze without freezing. This just reminds me of an affirmation that I say to myself, which is I choose progress over perfection, because perfectionism was bred into me by my environment that I was growing up in. So I also have to remind myself to give myself grace. I don't don't need to be perfect. I'm doing my best, and that's all that matters. The temple needs this gate open. Without it, you'll let anything in or lock everything out. Next is key 7, which is balance. I balance. The zodiac sign is Libra, the scales, air element, equilibrium, justice, relationship, the diplomat. The shadow aspect of it is indecision, people-pleasing, avoidance or conflict, manipulation through fairness, loss of self in a relationship. The energy center affected is your crown chakra, your connection to the divine, unity consciousness, spiritual alignment. The alchemical stage is coagulation, bringing it all together, solidifying wisdom into embodied form. The spiritual principle is divine equilibrium. The 72 forces connected is Fornius, which teaches rhetoric, languages, and makes men loved. The demon of balance between persuasion and manipulation. This is what this key unlocks. After discernment with key 6, you must now find equilibrium, not as compromise, but as a dynamic balance between opposing forces. Libra is the scales, the balance point, not static perfection, but constant adjustment, justice, fairness, the ability to hold multiple truths simultaneously, the diplomat who sees all sides. The shadow integration is this key forces you to confront chronic indecision. But what if I choose wrong? Let me weigh every option forever. People-pleasing, like I said, abandoning your truth to keep peace, becoming whatever other people need. And conflict avoidance. If I don't take a stand, no one will be upset with me. Manipulation through fairness. To be fair, both sides when one side is clearly harmful. Losing yourself in relationships. Merging completely with no boundaries and codependency. Performative balance. Appearing neutral, spiritual while secretly seething with judgment. Libra shadow is the people pleaser who has no center. The diplomat who stands for nothing. The one who's so busy weighing all sides they never actually choose. But integrated Libra becomes divine equilibrium, the ability to honor multiple perspectives while still standing in your truth, to be fair without being weak, to create harmony without sacrificing your authenticity. In the coagulation stage of alchemy, this is the final stage where everything you've learned, purified, transformed, and distilled now solidifies into embodied wisdom, not just knowing, being. The philosopher's stone is formed, lead becomes gold. The work is integrated. This is the balance of opposites, light and shadow, not just light, masculine and feminine, not one dominating, action and stillness, not constant doing or constant being, self and other, not sacrifice or selfishness, spiritual and material, not transcendence or attachment, power and compassion, not domination or dormant. Solomon embodied this balance. He wielded tremendous power, commanding 72 demons, but served divine purpose, building the temple. He was king with authority, but also servant to God. He was wise with discernment, but humble, asking for wisdom he didn't assume he had it. In Gematria, the number 7 is sacred completion. The 7 days of creation, 7 chakras, 7 classical planets, and the mystical number. Balance is the point where all forces meet in harmony. Your name contains the pattern of sacred 7, the completion within the structure. This is why people skip this step, because balance requires you hold tension. It's easier to go all in on one side. I'm all light. I reject my shadow. Or I'm all dark and twisted. Light is fake. Collapse into others. I'll just do what they want. It's easier. Refuse to engage. I'm above conflict. I'm too spiritual for this. Or stay stuck in indecision. If I never choose, I can't choose wrong. Real balance is hard. Standing in your power without dominating. Being compassionate without being a doormat. Honoring your shadow without being consumed by it. Setting boundaries while staying open. Taking a stand while respecting other perspectives. Choosing even when both options have validity. Without key 7, you're unbalanced. All head, no heart. All emotion, no discernment. All giving, no receiving. All power, no surrender. All yang, no yin. The scales must find their center. Not 50-50 static, but dynamic equilibrium that adjusts moment to moment based on what's needed. You are both light and shadow, both strong and soft, both teacher and student, both sovereign and servant. This key brings it all together. Everything you've unlocked so far must now find balance within you. The temple gate opens when you can hold all of yourself, the opposites, the contradictions, the tensions, in sacred equilibrium. Key 8 is transformation. I transform. In Zodiac, it's the Scorpio, the Scorpion, Eagle, Phoenix, water element, death, rebirth, the occult, power, regeneration. The shadow aspect is manipulation, obsession, vengeance, control through secrecy, self-destruction, and using power to harm. The energy center affected is the root chakra, the return, death, rebirth cycle, the Kundalini awakening, primal transformation. The alchemical stage is multiplication. The philosopher's stone is formed and can now transform infinite amounts of lead to gold. The spiritual principle is death and resurrection. The 72 forces connected is Orobos, revealing past, present, future, gives dignities, transforms, and the demon of metamorphosis. This is what this key unlocks. After finding balance in key 7, you must now undergo complete transformation, the death of who you were, the resurrection of who you're becoming. Scorpio is death itself, not as ending, but as necessary destruction before rebirth. The scorpion, the base instinct. The eagle, rising perspective. The phoenix, reborn from ashes. This is the deepest, darkest, most powerful water sign. The underworld, the occult, the hidden, the shadow's shadow. In shadow integration, this key forces you to confront the parts of you that must die. Old identities, old relationships, old beliefs that no longer serve. Manipulation and control, using emotional, psychological power to dominate others. Obsession, unable to let go, gripping tighter as something dies. Vengeance, they hurt me, so I'll destroy them. Secrecy as power, I know what you don't know, and that makes me superior. Self-destruction, sabotaging your own transformation because the death feels too complete. Fear of annihilation, if I let go of this identity, will I exist at all? Scorpio shadow is the scorpion that stings itself to death. The manipulator who destroys what they love through control, the one who weaponizes intimacy and vulnerability. But integrated Scorpio becomes the phoenix, the one who willingly dies to be reborn, who transforms poison into medicine, who rises from the ashes more powerful than before. This is the multiplication stage of alchemy. You've created the philosopher's stone in key 7, coagulation. Now it multiplies. Its power expands infinitely. One drop transforms entire oceans. Your transformation transforms others, not through force, but through presence. Just like I was talking about previously with the tuning fork. You become the living demonstration for others. This is the occult key, the hidden, the esoteric, the mysteries. Scorpio rules sex and death, the two great transformers. Power and surrender, giving up control to transform. The shadow and its integration, magic, alchemy, and the invisible forces. Solomon's deepest work happened here, commanding the most powerful demons, facing Beelzebul himself, wielding the ring's full authority. This wasn't light work. This was descending into the underworld and emerging victorious. In Gematria, the number 8 is the infinity, the 8 on its side, the infinity sign of death and rebirth cycle, regeneration, the octave, returning to beginning at a higher level, karmic balance, resurrection. Your name holds the pattern of eternal return. You die and are reborn in each moment. The Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. This is why people skip this key, because transformation requires actual death. Not physical death usually, but ego death. The death of who you thought you were. The death of relationships that can't survive your transformation. The death of beliefs that you built your identity on. The death of the person you've maintained. The death of the version of you that people love and expect you to be. People resist this key because if I change this much, will my partner still love me? Dude, I went through this myself. I totally did. I was really worried if through my spiritual journey that who I have become, who I'm still becoming, would be someone that he does no longer love. If I let go of this identity, who am I? If I transform, I'll lose everyone who knew the old me. What if I don't survive the death? So they stay stuck at key 7, balanced, integrated, wise, but not transformed. Still fundamentally the same person, just better managed. Key 8 says, no, you must die. not improve, not evolve gradually, die and be reborn better. As I said previously, the caterpillar doesn't become a better caterpillar. It liquefies completely in the chrysalis, dissolving into primordial soup, and emerges as a butterfly. Different creature entirely, right? That's what this key demands. Solomon wasn't the same after commanding demons. The experience transformed him utterly. You won't be the same after unlocking this gate. Without key 8, the work stays cosmetic. You've done impressive inner work, but your fundamental nature hasn't really shifted. You're still operating from the same core identity, just refined. Key 8 is the difference between self-improvement, better version of the same person, transformation, death of old self, and the birth of a new. Let it die. Whatever must go, let it go. Be like Elsa. Let it go, right? Because it's not serving you. Dissolve. Trust the process, like I said. Doesn't matter how shitty it looks. Trust it. The phoenix rises. The eagle soars. But first, the scorpion must sting. Transform or stay stuck. There is no middle path here. That's why you hear some people say you can't be lukewarm. You can't be half in, half out. If you want full transformation, you have to do it. Key 9 is expansion. I seek. The zodiac sign related is Sagittarius, the archer, the fire element, the philosopher, the seeker, the higher truth, freedom. The shadow aspect is dogmatism, recklessness, escapism, spiritual bypassing, arrogance disguised as wisdom, refusing commitment. The energy center affected is your sacral chakra, your return, creative expansion, adventurous spirit, exploration beyond boundaries. The alchemical stage is projection, the final stage where the philosopher's stone is projected into base metals, transforming them to gold, sharing the work with the world. The spiritual principle is a sacred quest. The spiritual principle is seeking higher truth. The 72 forces related are Dantalion, which teaches all arts and sciences, revealing secret counsels, changing thoughts, and expanding consciousness beyond limits. This is what this key unlocks. After complete transformation in key 8, you must now expand beyond what you were, seeking higher truth, exploring new territories, shooting your arrow towards the infinite, going where you've never gone before. Sagittarius is the archer aiming at the stars, the philosopher, the adventurer, the teacher, the seeker of ultimate truth. Half human, half horse, the centaur, bridging animal instinct and divine aspiration. This is fire as inspiration, expansion, the quest for meaning. In shadow integration, this key forces you to confront spiritual bypassing. I'm too evolved for earthly concerns, using philosophy to avoid reality. Dogmatism. I've found the truth. Everyone else is wrong. Recklessness, expanding without grounding, adventuring without responsibility, commitment phobia. But what if there's something better over there? The eternal seeker, never really landing. Arrogance disguised as wisdom. Let me teach you when you haven't embodied it yourself. Preaching without practice, knowing the path intellectually but never have walked it. Escapism, using higher consciousness to avoid dealing with the shadow trauma work. Sagittarius shadow is the eternal student who never becomes the master, the philosopher who has all the answers but no lived experience, the teacher who preaches one thing and yet lives another. But integrated Sagittarius becomes the authentic sage, someone who seeks truth humbly, expands wisely, teaches from embodied knowing, and shoots their arrow with both aim and surrender, knowing it will land where it's supposed to. The projection stage of alchemy is the final alchemical stage. You've created the philosopher's stone in key 7, multiplied its power in key 8, and now you've projected it outward, sharing your transformation with the world. Your transmuted being becomes the catalyst for others' transformation. Like I said, the tuning fork, not through preaching, but through presence. You are the teaching. Literally being you is teaching others. This is about taking everything you learned and expanding it beyond yourself, becoming the teacher, even if you don't call yourself one, inspiring others through your quest, your seeking, through your freedom, pointing arrows toward truth without claiming to own the truth, adventuring into unknown territories spiritually, intellectually, and experientially. In gematria, the number 9 is completion, the humanitarian, the old soul, the wisdom keeper, service to humanity, the highest single digit before returning to 1. 10 equals 1 plus 0 equals 1. The seeker who becomes the teacher, the one who completes cycles so others can begin new ones. This is why people skip this key. safety, because expansion is dangerous. After transformation in Key 8, it's safer to stay small. I've done my work, now I'll just maintain this. To hide your light. Who am I to teach or share or expand? Get lost in the seeking, reading another book, taking another course, never actually living the wisdom that you're learning. Or to preach without embodying it, like I said, becoming the spiritual teacher who hasn't done Key 8's depth. Key 9 requires actual living your truth, not just knowing it. Sharing your wisdom, even if it's imperfectly. Taking risks. Expansion means leaving safety. Staying humble. You're still seeking, even as you teach. Committing to the quest while surrendering to the outcome. Like I said, trusting the process. The archer must aim the arrow, pull back the bow, and release. Not control where it lands, just shoot with clear intention and that trust. Solomon, after his transformation in Key 8, now ruled with wisdom. He built the temple, shared his knowledge. He didn't hoard his power, he expanded it into service, teaching, legacy. But he also fell into Sagittarius's shadow later, accumulating the 700 wives and 300 concubines, building temples to foreign gods, getting lost in excess and expansion without the wisdom. The warning is, expansion without grounding becomes chaos. Seeking without embodying becomes spiritual materialism. But when integrated, you become the living arrow, aimed at truth, released with wisdom, flying freely while staying true to your target. Without Key 9, you stay small, transformed in Key 8 but hidden, wise but silent, healed but private. The work dies with you instead of expanding outward to others. Key 9 says expand, teach, share, adventure, seek higher truth. Seek higher truth. Inspire others. Let your transformation ripple, not from ego, look at me, I'm enlightened, but from service. I walk this path. Maybe my footsteps help you find yours. And this part reminded me of that poem, The Footprints in the Sand, because sometimes those footprints in the sand show the path for others who come after you so that they know this is the way. And other times you're walking with someone, so there's other footprints in the sand, right? Because you're helping lead them along. Some people need someone by their side. Other people are doing it by themselves. All paths are right? Expansion, quest, service, truth-seeking, freedom. The archer releases the arrow. Where will yours land? Key 10 is mastery. I use. In Zodiac, this is the Capricorn, the goat, the sea goat, earth element, the mountain climber, authority, structure, mastery through discipline. The shadow aspect of it is ruthless ambition, cold calculation, using others as stepping stones, workaholism, emotional suppression for success, tyranny. The energy center affected is your solar plexus chakra, return, personalized power actualized, will manifested in material world, authority embodied. The alchemical stage is beyond classical stages. This is application, taking the perfected work and building something instead of lasting in the material world. The spiritual principle is sacred authority. The 72 forces connected is Paimon, who teaches all arts, sciences, and secrets and gives dignities and confirms them. He binds people to the magician's will, the demon of absolute mastery. This is what this key unlocks. After expansion in Key 9, you must now master the work, bringing spiritual wisdom into material form, claiming your authority, building something that lasts. Capricorn is the mountain goat climbing to the summit, patient, persistent, strategic, ambitious, earth sign mastery. The sea goat has fishtail, which is depths of emotion and spirit, and a goat body climbing material heights, bridging spiritual depths with earthly achievement. This is the CEO, the architect, the master builder. In shadow integration, this key forces you to confront ruthless ambition, stepping on others to reach to the top, sacrificing relationships for success, emotional coldness, suppressing feelings to appear professional or strong, or using people instrumentally. What can you do for me? Rather than genuine connection. Or workaholism, defining worth by productivity and never resting. Or using tyranny. I'm in charge, obey me. Authority without compassion. Material obsession, measuring success only by external achievements like a house or a car or whatever thing you're doing to keep up with the Joneses. Or rigidity. My way is the highway. Refusing adaptation. And fear of vulnerability. If I show weakness, I'll lose my authority. And that one gets me because, when people show their vulnerability, when they're honest about things that every human being goes through, it gains respect from me personally, because that to me is honesty, and I respect honesty so much. Capricorn shadow is the tyrant boss, the cold CEO, the parent who demands perfection, the one who sacrifices everything human for achievement. But integrated Capricorn becomes the benevolent authority, someone who masters their domain, builds lasting structures, leads with wisdom, and uses responsibility to uplift others. In the application stage, beyond traditional alchemy, you've completed the great work. Now you apply it. You build the temple, literally and metaphorically. You create systems, structures, legacy. You take ethereal wisdom and make it material. This is Solomon actually building the temple, stone by stone, using demons he commanded to do physical work. This is mastery through discipline, showing up consistently, strategy, planning the ascent, patience. Mountains aren't climbed in a day. So, like I said, be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace. You're doing the best you can. Authority, claiming your right to lead, to teach, to build. And responsibility. Mastery means you're accountable now. In Gematria, the number 10 is completion and new beginning. 1 plus 0 is 1. The wheel returns to start at a higher level. The decimal system, perfection manifested, totality, the 10 commandments, the 10 sephirot, the tree of life. The mastery achieved becomes the foundation for the next cycle. This is why people skip this key, because mastery requires discipline and responsibility. After expansion in key 9, people want to stay in the seeker phase. I'm still learning, so they're avoiding claiming authority. I'm not ready to lead, teach, or build. They're hiding from responsibility. Ambition is ego, spiritual bypassing of legitimate drive. Structure is limiting, refusing to do the boring, repetitive work. I'm too spiritual for material success. Poverty consciousness disguised as enlightenment. Key 10 says, no, build something, master your craft, claim your authority, take responsibility. Not from ego because I'm better than you, but from earned competence. I've done the work. I know my domain. I can lead here. Solomon didn't just have wisdom, he used it. He built the temple, he judged disputes, he ruled a kingdom. He wrote proverbs. He mastered kingship, wisdom, magic, leadership. He didn't just seek, he applied. Without key 10, you're all potential with no manifestation. Lots of wisdom, no students. Deep healing, but still broke and unstable. Spiritual insights, but no practical impact. Transformation completed, but nothing is built. Key 10 demands you build. Your family, providing structure, being the authority. Your teaching, claiming the right to guide others. This is the difference between the wandering mystic and the master teacher, between the seeker and the builder, between potential and actualization. Climb the mountain, claim the summit, build that temple, master your domain, and do it with Capricorn's greatest lesson, patience and persistence. One step at a time, one stone at a time, for years, decades, lifetimes. I tell you what, life will sure teach you some patience, am I right? The goat doesn't rush. It climbs steadily, and it reaches the peak. Next is key 11, liberation. I know. In Zodiac, this is the Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius. But anyways, it's the water bearer, air element, the revolutionary, humanitarian, the collective consciousness, freedom. The shadow aspect is emotional detachment, rebelliousness without purpose, alienation, superiority complex, chaos for chaos's sake, refusing intimacy. The energy center affected is the heart chakra, universal love, collective healing, serving humanity while maintaining boundaries. The alchemical stage is transcendent, the crystallization of consciousness. Wisdom becomes living frequency, teaching through pure being. The spiritual principle is universal truth. The 72 forces connected to it is Glesa Labolas, that teaches arts and sciences instantly, causes bloodshed and invisibility, knows past and future, the demon of revolutionary knowledge. This is what this key unlocks. After mastery of key 10, you must now break free from all remaining chains, liberating yourself from conditioning, liberating others through truth, becoming the water bearer who pours wisdom freely to all. Aquarius is the revolutionary, The rebel with a cause, pouring water, knowledge, consciousness from the heavens to humanity. Air sign intellectual freedom, the one who sees beyond the current paradigm and brings the new age. In shadow integration, this key forces you to confront detachment masquerading as enlightenment. I'm above emotions and attachment, which is really just avoiding intimacy. Rebellion without wisdom, breaking rules just to break them. Chaos without purpose. Alienation, feeling so different, advanced that you isolate from humanity. A superiority complex. I see what the masses don't. I'm special, chosen, or awakened. Refusing to commit or connect. Attachment is change. I must stay free. Avoiding depth with other people. Or coldness. Using intellect to bypass heart. Chaos for its own sake. Disrupting without offering solutions. The Aquarius shadow is the alienated genius who can't connect. The revolutionary who burns it all down with no plan to rebuild. The rebel who's so free they're imprisoned by their need to be different. But integrated, Aquarius becomes the humanitarian visionary, someone who breaks chains to liberate all beings, who rebels for the collective good, who pours wisdom freely while staying grounded in love. The crystallization of consciousness. Beyond alchemy's traditional stages, this is when you become the teaching, not performing it, not even embodying it consciously. You are it. Your frequency alone shifts rooms. Your presence heals. Your rebellion liberates. The Philosopher's Stone doesn't just transform metals, it is transformation. This is about complete liberation from conditioning, from societal, familiar, religious, and cultural conditioning. Seeing through all illusions, even spiritual illusions. The revolutionary truth-telling, serving the collective while honoring individual sovereignty, being so free that your freedom gives others permission to be free themselves. In Gematria, the number 11 is a master number, the spiritual illuminator, the awakener, the one who bridges dimensions, not reduced to 2. This is the master teacher number, the channel, the conduit. This is why people skip this key, because liberation is terrifying, just like the other ones, right? After mastery in key 10, it's safer to stay within the system. Even if you've mastered it, you understand it, you see it for what it is. You keep your wisdom appropriate and palatable. You try to not rock the boat too hard, right? I don't want to be causing any problems or make anybody uncomfortable. But that doesn't help people or yourself grow. You maintain respectability. You avoid being called crazy or a heretic or a conspiracy theorist. Right? Because that's scary. Key 11 says, no, break all the chains. Tell all the truth. Pour the water freely. Burn it to the ground. The things that need to be set ablaze, do it. Even when family thinks you're crazy. Society rejects you. You lose respectability. You shouldn't care. You're called a conspiracy theorist. Own it. You stand alone. Because you know what? We're used to it. Let's do it, right? Solomon in his highest expression was key 11. He liberated humanity by recording wisdom that would outlive him at a time where it was not accepted. But he also fell into key 11's shadow. His liberation into 700 wives and foreign gods became chaos without wisdom. The balance is liberation with grounding, revolution with wisdom, freedom with responsibility. Without key 11, you stay safe, mastered in key 10, but conventional, wise but acceptable, transformed but still playing by their rules. Guys, we're above their rules. We have this sovereign authority given to us by the highest of the high. Fuck their system. Key 11 is where you become dangerous to the control systems because you can't be controlled anymore. You see through it all and you speak it. Pour the water, break the chains, liberate the captives, tell the truth no one else will speak. Like I said, burn it all metaphorically to the ground, man. Next is key 12, transcendence. I become. In zodiac, it's Pisces, the fish, water element, dissolution, unity, the mystic, compassion, return to source. The shadow aspect is martyrdom, victim consciousness, escapism through substances and fantasy, boundary dissolution, savior complex, and spiritual bypassing. The energy center affected is your crown crown chakra. Full union with divine, dissolution of separate self, cosmic consciousness. The alchemical stage is the ultimate return, dissolution back into the prima materia, but this time conscious, choosing to return to source while maintaining awareness. The spiritual principle is divine union. The 72 forces connected is Andromalius, which recovers stolen goods, punishes thieves, reveals wickedness, and returns what was lost, including your connection to source. This is what this key unlocks. After liberation in key 11, you must now transcend even liberation itself, returning to source, dissolving into unity, becoming the ocean while remembering you were once a wave. Pisces is the final sign, the omega, two fish swimming in opposite directions, duality bound together in unity, dissolution, the mystic who sees God in everything, the empath who feels all, the dreamer, the return to the cosmic womb before rebirth at Aries, key 1. In shadow integration, this key forces you to confront martyrdom. I suffer for others, which is spiritual ego disguised as sacrifice. A victim consciousness. Life happens to me. I'm powerless. Escapism. Substances, fantasy, disassociation to avoid reality. Boundary dissolution. Absorbing everyone's pain, losing yourself in others. The savior complex. I must rescue everyone. Denying their sovereignty to choose with their free will. Spiritual bypassing at the highest level. It's all one. Nothing matters. All is love. That's avoiding shadow work. Addiction to substances, relationships, victimhood, suffering itself, refusing incarnation. I don't want to be here. Earth is too harsh. I want to go home. Pisces shadow is the martyr who drowns in others' pain, the addict escaping reality, the victim who refuses empowerment, the mystic so dissolved that they can't function. But integrated Pisces becomes conscious compassion, someone who feels everything but isn't destroyed by it, who serves without sacrificing their self, who touches source and returns to serve, who transcends while remaining grounded. The ultimate return, conscious dissolution. In the beginning of alchemy, you start with prima materia, unformed chaos. Through all the stages, you refine, purify, transform. Now at the end, you must return to the prima materia, but this time consciously. You dissolve back into source, God, unity, but you know you're doing it. You maintain awareness even as boundaries disappear. This is about complete surrender to divine will, recognizing you are source, playing as individual. Compassion for all beings because you see yourself in everyone else and everything else. Service without self because there is no separate self, only one appearing as many. Choosing incarnation even after tasting freedom. The 72 forces, after commanding all 72 demons, keys 1 through 11 integration, they return to you because they were never separate. The demons you bound were aspects of yourself. Now you see there's only one force appearing as 72 faces. You and the demons are source, playing hide and seek. In gematria, the number 12 is completion of the full cycle. 12 tribes, 12 disciples, 12 zodiac signs, 12 months, 12 hours, 12 gates now unlocked. The circle completes. But completion means readiness for a new beginning. This is why people skip this key. Because transcendence is paradoxical. After liberation of key 11, people want to stay in their individual power, afraid to dissolve. They keep their hard-won boundaries, afraid of merging. They hold on to their identity, afraid of the ego death. They remain someone, afraid of becoming no one. Or they bypass into key 12 shadow. Spiritual bypassing, it's all one, so nothing matters. I don't need to do shadow work. Escaping into drugs, medication, fantasy instead of living. Martyring themselves. I give everything for others. Refusing to claim power. We're all one, so I can't be special. The paradox is you must transcend individuality while remaining functional as individual. Dissolve into ocean while swimming as a wave. Becoming nothing while serving as something. Solomon at his peak touched this. His wisdom came from beyond himself, through him from source, but he also fell into Pisces shadow, lost in excess of 700 wives, dissolved into foreign influences, building temples to other gods, escaping his own wisdom through indulgence. Without key 12, the work stays personal. You've mastered yourself in keys 1 to 11, but you're still operating as separate self doing personal development. Key 12 reveals there is no personal self. All of it is you, all of it God. God. All of it is one. But you incarnated anyway. You chose to come back because the dream needs to be dreamed. The temple needs to be built. The teaching needs to be taught. This is the final key. I am that I am. Not the I, the individual. I am, the divine self, recognizing itself in all forms. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you because there's only divine, appearing as you, appearing as me, appearing as everything. The 12 gates are open. The temple is complete. The 72 forces are integrated. And now you see, it was always you, Source, playing all the parts, the seeker and the sought, the teacher and the student, the light and the shadow. Welcome home. You never left. But the journey was necessary to remember 12 key completion. The 12 keys are unlocked. The Solomonic shadow is integrated. The temple stands. True power comes not from dominating forces outside of yourself, but from mastering the forces within. Solomon didn't just command 72 demons. He integrated 72 aspects of his own fragmented consciousness. The temple he built externally was a reflection of the inner temple he constructed through wisdom, humility, and divine alignment. His teaching is this: you cannot command what you do not understand. You cannot integrate what you will not face. You cannot wield spiritual authority without doing the internal work first. Know the names of your demons, your shadow aspects. Face them with courage. Bind them not through suppression, but through understanding and integration. Put them to work for divine purpose, transforming your darkness into building blocks for your temple. The seal, the ring, the authority. These are symbols of inner alignment with Source. When your will aligns with divine will, when your wisdom serves truth rather than ego, when you've done the shadow work and stand purified, then, and only then, can you command the forces. Without the internal mastery, the external power corrupts. This is why Solomon's story ends in shadow. He achieved external mastery but lost internal alignment. 700 wives, foreign gods, excess and indulgence. His wisdom didn't save him from his own unintegrated shadow. The lesson is the work is never done. The 12 keys must be turned again and again. Mastery requires eternal vigilance. Power demands humility. Authority serves love. Because in the end, there are things that we cannot control that happen around us and how we respond to them. And the environment affects us, right? So we have to continually be vigilant about our thought patterns and things like that developed from our environment and what happens. That way, we're not continually having new triggers and new problems, right? We can master these. Build your inner temple. Command your inner demons. Align with Source. Then, and only then, will you wield that true power. So now you know the 12 keys. You understand Solomon's teaching. But how do you actually do this work? How do you face your own 72 forces? What is shadow work? Shadow work was coined by Carl Jung. The shadow consists of the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, anger, selfishness, or even golden traits like power and creativity that we've repressed. The goal is not to fix the shadow, but to integrate it. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the simple explanation of this, the basement metaphor. Imagine your mind as a house. Most of us live in the living room and the kitchen, the parts we show the guests. But every house has a basement. The basement is where we throw the broken furniture, the old boxes, the things we don't want people to see, right? Shadow work, also known as inner child healing, trauma work, it has many names, but they're all speaking of the same thing, is simply taking a flashlight, going down those stairs, and finally opening those boxes. It's looking at the parts of yourself that you've repressed, ignored, or been ashamed of, your shadow, and realizing that those things don't have to be scary once the light's on them. People often ask, is this just therapy? Basically, yes, okay? When you go to a counselor, they help you identify patterns, look at your triggers, and figure out why you react the way you do. Shadow work is doing that same deep, honest inventory, but you are the therapist and the patient at the same time. You don't need a $200 an hour appointment to ask yourself, why did that comment make me so angry? Or what part of me is trying to protect me by staying silent? Counseling provides the mirror. Shadow work is you choosing to look into that mirror every single day on your own terms. So you you don't need a counselor. I'm not saying that you don't have to go to one, because sometimes that is helpful for people because they need the insight of a counselor. But if you dig deep and are honest with yourself, you do not need one. You can do this work yourself. Last week we talked about how drugs like Singular or SSRIs can unseal the shadow for you, often in ways you can't control. That's the scary way to meet your shadow. Today we're talking about doing it on purpose. Instead of a pill bottle or something else, bringing those things to the surface, you are choosing to sit down with those feelings. You're saying, I see you, and I'm going to figure out how to integrate you so you stop hijacking my life. You quit having power over me in these situations, because that's what it is. You're letting those things have power over you. You're not helpless. You're not in control, okay? You have the power to control these things in your life. I know at times you feel helpless, but that is a lie in your mind. That is a lie society wants you to know. You have the power. You take it. Think about what happens in a therapist's office. You talk about your triggers, you look at your childhood patterns, and you try to understand the why behind your what. Shadow work is that exact same process, but you don't need an appointment and you don't need a copay. Guys, this is free. Will you take the opportunity to embrace it? It's the process of becoming conscious of the unconscious. We all have traits that have been told are bad. Maybe it's our ambition, our anger, our sensitivity. So we push them into the shadow. But just like we saw with those prescription drugs, whatever you suppress eventually finds a way out. Shadow work is you're deciding to meet those parts of yourself in the daylight, so they stop coming out sideways in the darkness. Here's the truth. It's simple, but not easy. Like I said, so step one, name it. You don't need a black-robed altar or a therapist's couch to start. You just need a notebook, a pen, and a mirror. You sit in front of the mirror for 5 minutes in silence. Don't look at your hair or your skin or try to critique yourself. Look into your eyes. Ask yourself, what am I currently hiding from myself? You can't face what you won't acknowledge. Ask yourself, what do I do that I'm ashamed of? What patterns keep repeating in my life? What am I afraid people will discover about me? Where do I hurt others? Where do I lie to myself? Write it down. Don't judge it. Don't fix it yet. Just name it. Give your demons their true names. Write down even just the first 3 words that pop into your head, no matter how ugly or weird they feel. Those words are your shadow names for the day. You've just done what Solomon did. You identified the spirits in your temple. Step 2 is seeing it and feeling it. Shadow work is mostly about being a detective in your own life. So for the next 24 hours after you do step 1, pay attention to whenever you feel triggered, that flash of heat when someone cuts you off in traffic, or that sink in your stomach when a certain person texts you. Instead of reacting, ask, what is this feeling trying to protect? Usually our shadow is just part of us that stayed stuck in a moment of fear in the past. When you acknowledge it, the seal on that emotion starts to loosen. Now, here's where people run. You've named it. Now you have to feel it. Sit with the shame, the rage, the grief, the fear. Don't numb it. Don't spiritually bypass it with love and light. Feel it. Don't explain it away. Feel it in your body. Where does it live? Your chest, your throat, your gut? Sometimes this manifests as anxiety. That's in your chest, right? Sometimes you get upset tummies, right? That's in your gut. Sometimes you have a tightness in your throat and you're like, gosh, I'm always just so tense in my neck or in my throat. Something's going on. Your body is trying to tell you something. Breathe into it. Let it move through you. Cry if you need to. Scream into a pillow. Punch a punching bag. Let the energy move. Even animals do this when they experience things. They let the energy move. They shake. They pant. They move this energy out. But we are also animals in the most primordial state, right? We also need to let this move through us to where it can escape out of us, right? So if you feel like shaking when you're traumatized and you don't shake, you are repressing that emotion, right? And so it stays stagnant in your physical body. Your physical body remembers. This is also called somatic work. You've got to let these things out. Shaking your arms, kind of, doing some motions, whatever feels like you need to do, you just do it. So what if people think you're weird? You're doing the right work, right? We're trying to regulate our we're trying to regulate our system. Fuck what they think. Stop running though. Next time you feel a bad emotion, don't reach for the distraction or a pill to numb it. Sit with it for 60 seconds. That is the first step of shadow work, presence, because it is important to feel it. Like I said, this isn't just, you're leaving it stagnant inside yourself. This is letting it move. Step 3 is ask it. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's part of you trying to protect you in a broken way. Talk to it out loud or in writing. Rage, why are you here? What are you protecting? Shame, what are you afraid will happen if I'm seen? Control, what did you save me from? Listen, the answers answers will come. Your shadow has wisdom if you listen without judgment. Step 4 is integrating it. Once you understand what your shadow was protecting you from, you can thank it and then choose differently. Thank you, rage, for protecting me when I was powerless. I'm not powerless anymore. I can set boundaries without violence. Thank you, shame, for trying to keep me safe by keeping me small. I'm ready to be seen now. Integration means the energy stays. You don't lose your fire, your boundaries, your discernment, but it serves you instead of controlling you. Step 5 is put it to work. Solomon didn't just bind them demons, he put them to work building the temple, right? Your integrated shadow becomes your power now. Rage becomes righteous anger defending truth. Shame becomes humility. Control becomes healthy boundaries. Victim becomes compassion for others suffering. Pride becomes confidence. Lust becomes creative life force. Ask your shadow, how can you serve my highest purpose now? Step 6 is repeat. This isn't a one and done, like I said. Shadow work is lifelong. New layers reveal themselves all the time. As I've said, even I'm still doing this work myself. Old patterns resurface at deeper levels. Once you start uncovering them, more will come to light. Things you didn't realize will start to surface. Every time you turn the 12 keys, you go deeper. The spiral continues. But each time you're stronger, more integrated, more whole. That's it. Simple steps. Name it, see and feel it, ask it, integrate it, put it to work, repeat. It's not complicated, but it does require the courage to do it. Most people won't do this. They'll stay outside the temple their entire lives afraid of what's inside. But you're not most people. You're here listening to this episode because something in you is ready. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one shadow aspect, just one. Name it this week. Feel it. Ask it what it's protecting. See what happens. You don't have to unlock all 12 gates at once. Start with key 1, the courage to begin. The temple is waiting. Your demons are waiting. They want to be integrated. They want to serve your highest purpose. Will you do the work? You now have the 12 keys. You know Solomon's story. You understand that 72 forces live within you, waiting to be integrated and put to work, building your inner temple. But here's what I haven't told you yet. Solomon didn't work alone. He wasn't serving some random god that the church later sanitized and controlled. He was working with the divine council, multiple beings, Elohim, plural, not singular, the watchers, the divine feminine that's been erased, the cosmic structure they don't want you to know about. Next week, we're going deeper. We're going to talk about who Solomon was actually serving, who gave him that ring, what the temple really represented, and why they buried the truth about the plural divine, the sacred feminine, and the cosmic hierarchy that existed before they collapsed it into one jealous, wrathful God. If this episode unlocked gates within you, next week will shatter the entire framework you thought you understood. The daughter of Sophia has more to reveal. Until then, do the work. Face your shadow. Turn the keys. The temple awaits. Until next time.